What up, son? How are you doing? I really liked your post on the in the community the other day. That was dope. What up, Tate? How are you? Jamarian, what's up, bro? What's going on, brother? Nothing much, dude. Just chilling. Chilling like a villain. Figured I'd come and chill with you guys. It's been about a week since I've been on, so figured I'd go show some love. We've been going on TikTok quite a bit. There's a lot of peeps going on TikTok, so we decided to go over there, and the guy that's going to be doing the video with me talking about manifesting SP, which is I never went into details of what his circumstances looked like prior, but you literally had a third party. His SP was in a different state. Their parents didn't want him to be together. He had like so many different circumstances. It'll be really cool to do the collab with him because he's going to add just so much value to a very wide amount of people. Good, thanks for asking. You're welcome, son. How you doing, Jamarion? Yeah, if you guys do watch TikTok, watch us on Sundays and Wednesdays. We're going on TikTok now. Sanam. Hey Joseph. What's up, Sanam? Can't complain, Joey. That's awesome, Jamarian. I'm glad to hear that, brother. I am very glad to hear that. I'm surprised that Mystical isn't in here. Mystical is always in these streams. I finally caught one of your streams. I want to tell you, I think you are one of the most authentic, genuine creators, and I love your content. Thank you so much, Consider. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I always talk about it as being as you are. What I find is that what you love automatically flows to you being as you are. You know, it's really just it's the best way to be because you're perfect as you are. But thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Yeah, I would like to. I'm going to start making a schedule too because I think that that's probably best is that I start making a schedule so that way people know when I'm on. To be fair, which would be really good. I've been trying to get people off of Reddit to come on and hear their stories and how they manifested and etc. too to be helpful. I found that not a lot of people want to come on and show their face when talking about manifestation, which is fine. They still help by typing out, but I'm trying to get peeps on Reddit, which would be really cool as well. Where are you guys all at, by the way? Everyone that's watching. Son, you're my top fan. I appreciate you. Tate, you're in Connecticut. Ah, how's the weather over there? I'm always curious. Like I've only ever been to Arizona. Well, that's not true. I was in Illinois in the summertime about 2 years ago now, or was it a year? I don't know. Within the last 2 or 3 years, and man, it was freaking so much better than Arizona. I couldn't believe that it was like summertime and it was like 80 degrees. It doesn't get 80 degrees here until probably about October. I'm so happy to catch you live. I'm very grateful you're here as well, Carolina. Lots of stigma associated with it. A lot of normies think we're insane by controlling reality. Yeah. Yep. You know, the beautiful thing I find though is that there's not really a point of arguing with one about anything because in their reality they're correct. So let them be as they are, right? Hill Country, Texas. Ooh, hot as hell, muggy. All right, fair. Thank God for AC, right? South Africa. Holy shit. That's so cool. I'm in Australia, Vina. I've never heard of that, to be honest. I've heard of Australia. I just never heard of Vina. I always wanted to go. That's like that place looks crazy though. Same with Africa. There's like so many things that can kill you there. I guess that's true everywhere with cars and stuff, but I mean animals specifically. Amazing how so many people are just robots walking around. It's so true. So true. Yeah. Yep. Carl Jung said it beautifully is that until you make the conscious or the unconscious conscious, you will call it fate. And I found it to be true too. Until we consciously become aware of what we are suggesting to ourselves in relation to all outside appearances, people, places, and things, that relationship will remain the same and we'll call it fate or not remember when we did so. That's why I'm so big on being in flow is because it's really the only way to not react the same way, to not imagine the same way. Amazing hi Joseph. What's up, Marie? How you doing? It's been a while. Just focus on your own state and love other people. Yeah, Sanam, that's my thing. I had an interesting thing today. I was being well, my grandma was suggesting her opinion on parenting that I'm doing with my son. And it was interesting because I caught myself being reactive and I was like, well, why is this the case? Because um, clearly there must be an untrue belief in mine that's suggesting that there's problems or something like that. And so, well, what is it in me? Why do I need her to be different than how she is? And it's like, well, because she's implying that I'm wrong and because I want to be right and etc. And it's like, well, is that determined by an outside thing? Nope. Then I can release it. I can release it. Go watch YouTube, buddy. I'll be done in a little bit. Okay. And then I released it, and my grandma could be as she was, and then I can be as I am. Joseph Manifesting International Edition. You are wrong, actually, literally, yeah. Hey, Joseph, there's Mystical. What's up, Mystical? I was just asking about you. I was like, Mystical's always in streams and YouTube videos. I appreciate you, by the way. Australia's in Europe. Yeah. So many triggers, so little time. Yeah, but you'll find that Jamari on those, like as you keep going on this journey and you keep practicing like being in flow and releasing untrue beliefs. And I found a very nice thing that's makes it very clear to me because I couldn't tell before if there was an untrue belief or if it was something legitimately I needed to take action on. And what I found that gave me a lot of clarity is that any thought from the premise of being bliss, any thought from the premise of love, any thought from the premise of fulfillment, any thought from the premise of harmony is a true thought. It's an actual I thought. It's me thinking for myself. Any thought that's from the thought of not being who I desire to be, it's not the way that I want it to be. It's problematic. There's disharmony. Is not a I thought. It's a little I thought. And so really I go by how it feels. If I have a thought, which is really a self-suggestion, that's all a thought is. Whenever I say life is like this or this looks like this is imagining. This is a self-suggestion is put in Think and Grow Rich. Um, that is what will end up playing out as the reality. And so if I can pay attention to what I'm suggesting to myself and pay attention to how it's feeling, I can know in the moment whether or not it's truth based or not. So if it feels good, it's probably an actual I thought. It's me thinking for myself. It's you thinking for yourself. If it's a thought that doesn't feel good, it's probably a limited thought or a untrue belief that I want to release identification to, which then purifies the mind. And then it won't keep coming up in mind, right? Like that's the beautiful thing about circumstances, like what I had with my grandma earlier. Well, the moment I recognized that that wasn't a thought that I prefer or I love, that it's an untrue thought, I can release it. And then the next time that if someone presents me with their opinion, it won't be about me. There will be no reactivity to it. And I can allow them to be, I can allow me to be, and I'll be in harmony. So that's really what it's all about, is just purifying the mind. Purifying the mind of the little lie that suggests based upon appearances or based upon trauma or based upon separation or lack or not being the I am. Is this a Q&A? Yeah, Tate. Yeah, we're here to vibe. A lot of people in here I love and thankfully I get to see often. A lot of people have questions about manifesting their SP or different things. So whatever you feel like saying or doing, do that. Hi, Joseph. Trigger today. What happened, Fig? And hello. Had a success story last week. I applied to school and knew I was going to get it. I felt it and saw it. I had doubts about getting in this year and was a little nervous. Congrats, George. It's awesome, brother. Congratulations. One of many successes. Hi, Joseph. Hi, Ty. Why am I attracting other people other than my SP? I've been focusing on my self concept and have been complimented and appreciated by others, but not SP. Curious your thoughts. Yeah, oftentimes, TV or Ty, that's a very good indication that you are acknowledging that you're loved. You're acknowledging that you're adored. You're acknowledging that you're appreciated. And this is one of the first rearrangement of appearances to show you what you're confirming within yourself, what you're acknowledging is true within yourself. And so then you're seeing out pictures of or symbols of who you're claiming yourself to be. So you just persist in that. And also if you'd like to, you can start being in there. Sometimes people may experience that because they are not affirming that they're loved and adored by their person. Other times it's just part of Bridge of incidences. It's kind of showing them, or synchronization showing them that that's what they're claiming to be, is what their senses are showing, that they're loved, they're adored, they're attractive. Hello, Joseph. What's up, Rebecca? Hello to you. But I thought that even if I don't get in this year, I'll try next year. Well, congrats, George. It's awesome, brother. One of many successes. And it just shows you, like, that's the cool thing about when you succeed in stuff like this, is you see that it was created by you inwardly acknowledging that you have this thing or that it is that way now. And then the outward appearances show you what you acknowledge within you. And that's the cool thing about your senses. Your senses show you who you say you are. Right? Like that's the really cool thing about senses. And a lot of times what we may go, oh no, it's confirming to the opposite, or no, it's doing this, and we can identify as it being problematic or not the way we want it to be. But really all it's doing is it's doing its job. Your senses' job are to show you what you did in secret. How else would you see? They have to be there. It has to be. It's its purpose. And so it's not something to fight. It's not something to be upset by. It's just something that it's its job. And your job as consciousness is to recognize that you create by choosing something and remain loyal to it. So that's your job as well, right? So the senses are not problematic. The senses are just suggesting in showing you what you have created at one point. It's not a death sentence. It's just what's currently popping up in the 3D. If good thoughts, affirmations about desired thing trigger you because they feel untrue, how do you personally get them to feel good? Well, Sanam, what about it feels untrue, right? So there is I relate to this. First off, let me acknowledge that what you're saying makes sense. But if you look at it from a more objective state, is you may be saying that it doesn't feel true, but what you're basing it upon is your 3D experiences. So if I say, "Hey, I'm wealthy," and I'm basing it when I'm saying this affirmation, I'm basing it upon the fact that outwardly it has never appeared that way. I'm going to feel as though I'm lying. If I inwardly am acknowledging that I'm wealthy because I recognize that wealth comes from within me, I recognize that beauty comes from within me, I recognize that I am wealth and I am beauty and I am fulfillment and I am bliss and I am love, well, then that doesn't feel resistance, right? You see what I'm saying? When I'm trying to affirm and trying to compare it to the outside, my focus is on the outside when I'm affirming. It's like I'm trying to make it that way, it causes resistance. When I inwardly acknowledge that I am it or that I have it, there's no resistance because it's true. Everything does come from within me. I want him, but I see him being far from me, and I think he likes other girls. So, Rebecca, these are all internal interpretations. These are all thoughts judging based upon appearances. So this is what I was talking about is where your senses you may have at some point assumed or imagined that your SP was a particular way. Now, your senses are still suggesting based upon the same belief systems that created the circumstance that your senses are now observing. So, in order for you to change, you have to change what thoughts you entertain in relation to that person. The fastest way I found with the least amount of resistance is not to try to force how I see this person or force how I visualize them or what I think about them. The best way is to release the way that I was thinking about them. So these thoughts that you just suggested to me, these are inner conversations you're having with yourself that you're now suggesting to me. That's what I mean by change by not identifying with these thoughts. Like currently, if you look at it, this is the meaning that you're giving the situation. This is the inner conversations you're having with yourself about that individual, which again, this is a different topic for a different time, but I don't even believe that that person exists outside of your consciousness. My senses appear outside of me, but where are all the nerves? Where am I feeling this at? Where am I making my inner judgments? It's all happening within my mind, within my consciousness. So this person is also happening within my consciousness. So if I want to have a different experience within my consciousness, I must have different suggestions about this object in my consciousness. So when those thoughts come up, I don't think in relation to this. So my thoughts are saying your thoughts are saying whatever it is that your thoughts are saying here that you typed out. When those thoughts come up, you don't identify with them, which means you don't allow yourself to think in relation with what the belief is suggesting to you based upon appearances. Simply release it. And then the beautiful thing you'll find is in most cases, you'll start thinking lovely of this person automatically. And the reason why I found is because your natural default state of being is fulfillment. Your natural default state of being is love. Your natural default being is bliss. Your natural default state of being is happiness. So when you release the untrue belief, what you find is underneath that is actually who you are. So you start thinking as who you are. And since your consciousness or your God, you start thinking more like that than based upon limitations, separation, past circumstances, the personality, trauma, et cetera, et cetera. Just talked to my SP. She is now dating third parties that she really likes. I think we are a great match, but I've been friend zoned. Is there a way to manifest her now? Part of me wants to let her go and let her be happy. She's an amazing friend, but I wanted more, and I feel like she did too, despite what she says. Is it wrong to still want her and to remove a third party, like some people suggest? Tate, that's completely up to you, my friend. It's completely up to you. So if we reverse engineer it, Tate, I at some point, and the point behind this isn't shame or condemnation, right? The point behind the beautiful thing behind responsibility is that, well, if I created it, I can change my mind. I can change how I imagine. I can stop doing things that are creating things that don't serve me and I don't love. And so if you look back to what's going on in the circumstance, I know that at some point you can recall when you imagine that this is how your relationship with this individual is. These were the exact things that you were imagining. I know because I've paid so much attention to my inner world that I know that nothing like this happens without me first uh, imagining it as a possibility in my reality. I first thought this way about this individual, and then this individual then showed up that appeared that way. Again, I don't want to say show up or they're doing something because this implies that I'm somehow a victim in my own consciousness, which I'm not, and you're not. You are the power. So the decision is then is, do you want to be in a loving relationship with this individual, or do you want to be in a loving relationship in general? And whatever it is that you decide, if you are deciding that you want to be in a loving relationship with this individual, well, then you would need to then acknowledge that you're in a loving relationship now within you. It is that way within you now. Everything's within you now. Anything you can imagine, you can place yourself into it right now in imagination, consciously. You can put yourself anywhere. So if you do want this person, acknowledge that you are in a loving relationship now and maintain that. And I'm going to be doing a collaboration with Ryan, which is the person that started the school community with me. He's manifested this person back actually 6 times now. He's dealt with a third party. He's dealt with them being in different states. He's dealt with a lot of things happen in a relationship. He's dealt with time. He's dealt with a lot of identity. They've been together for 15 years on and off, and um, he's gonna be talking about his experience, which I trust will be very helpful. So when that's coming out, I'll make a post about it so everybody's aware. But the key behind this is that if you don't have in your consciousness or you don't have it in your mind that there is a third party, then the third party dissolves. So, where a lot of people go wrong that I've worked with is that they keep saying there's a third party. How do I get rid of the third party? Well, the very act that they're conscious of a third party and resisting the third party creates the third party to remain there. It has to be removed from your consciousness. There is no third party. You're in a loving relationship now. You go to the end. I posted on a Facebook group. I don't really do it too much anymore, as I already get a lot of questions and conversate quite a bit on this topic. So I don't really have a desire to do it too much. But the person's question was, should I work on the self concept or live in the end? And the answer is live in the end, because the end automatically, your self concept automatically changes. People appear to change. You appear to change. Your actions automatically flow. The words you say automatically flow. Everything flows in the end. So you just go to the end. You don't worry about how it's going to happen. You don't worry about the middle or anything you need to do. You just continue every time you think of the subject, which is your SP, you continue to go to the end over and over again. Very simply, think you have the perfect relationship with my SP or something to that matter. You can imagine it. You can have inner conversation, whatever it is. The point is that you're remaining true to the end. And every time you think of that subject, you're in the end with that subject. That subject is that way now. Turns out I did get admitted now to extrapolate that to SP. I think it's harder because it means more to me. Yeah, with SP, I noticed a thing for me, like with SP versus other manifestations, is that my wife would pop up on my mind very often, which is what made it more challenging. Was the fact that she popped up in mind more often. When I say, "Hey, I'm abundant," or "Money flows to me," or whatever it is, I think about it in that time. I kind of just let it go. With an SP, it's like I love them, and then sometimes the old story comes up, and the next day, should I get somebody else, and all this other stuff, and blah 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 blah. And so there's just so many different topics about SP that come up, which makes it uh, I don't want to say more challenging, but it's a beautiful opportunity to really control your imagining, so that every time you're thinking of the subject, which is the SP, you keep going to the same conclusion, the same end every time that you're in a loving relationship. You guys are in harmony now. Um, Joseph, we are noticing something isn't the way we want that. Then does that also mean we aren't in the state just by noticing it? No, you're always in the state, mystical. You can't not be in the state. That's the whole thing about it, is like Neville's statement implies, is that you are who it is that you desire to be. The only reason why you don't see it is your refusal to believe it. So what does it mean by you're noticing something that isn't the way that you want them? This is implying that you're identifying to reason or to untrue beliefs that is suggesting other than you are who you desire to be. That's the only issue that you have, mystical. I've been very triggered in the past couple of hours. So glad you're doing the live. Now, I needed my dose of JJ wisdom today. I'm glad I could help, Fig. How and why should we persist when the world is saying everything we are manifesting isn't true at all? Why should we persist when the world is saying everything we are manifesting isn't true at all? Hold on, Max. What you too, baby? I'm working. Remember? How and why should we persist? Well, I mean, Tate, the world only exists within your consciousness, right? So like you don't have to persist. It's not like you don't have to do anything, right? You're the creator of your reality. So like you can do whatever you want to do. The thing is though is that if you're wanting to create the reality that you love, that you desire, then it is important to continue to see yourself from there. Like that's the whole reason why we're here is to experience ourselves being the way that we love to be. That's the purpose of life. There's really no other purpose to recognize who you are and then showcase that. That's the point of life, right? I mean, so you don't have to, obviously, but that's part of the deal is that we're releasing the untrue beliefs and the little lie on the way to the realization of our desire being fulfilled. Also, Joseph has been said, thoughts have no power. So, say a thought comes up that is in alignment with the desired outcome. Isn't this random thought the same as saying, I am this now? Well, the thing is the difference is identification, right, mystical? Because all you are is the awareness. You're just the consciousness, the blank slate, the that which allows everything to exist. And it's not a specific thing. Your job is that you get to choose what you say I am, who you say I am. That's your job. And so if you want particular experiences, then you acknowledge yourself as being the way that you want to be. So no, a thought in and of itself doesn't do anything. It's a thought identified by who you are that does something. That's creative. Who you say I am is what creates. A thought in and of itself does nothing. Until it shows up, persistence and not giving up. Amen, Jamarian. I have a question. I'm experiencing quite a lack of money. I'm focused on I am, but my body's in crazy panic anxiety. Do you have any advice? It's hard to trust. Yeah, I relate to that, Carolina. Very good question. So, what's happening is that you are becoming the consciousness, which is ideal. That's who you are. And you're removing the untrue suggestions that the personality is given you based upon appearances. And so your body is still feeling the energy and motion that's related to that untrue belief that's being triggered as a result of what it's suggesting to you based upon what it's seeing. So there's really the main thing to do here is to one, and you can do this one of two ways, depending upon how intense the energy and motion is. I found I'll do a different practice, but one, if the energy and motion is very light, which means that it's just a very small sensation or a small level of energy, I will simply just become aware of the emotion, not want to change it, and not label it problematic, not identify with the story as to why it's there, but simply relate to the energy and motion differently, which means that what I was unconsciously calling fear, I now relate to that as excitement. Without trying to change the sensation, I just relate to that sensation as a different emotion. Then you'll find it's not problematic anymore because what was problematic was the meaning that you were given the energy and motion, not the actual energy and motion. Is energy and motion is simply energy and motion. The second thing that you can do if you find that it is deep emotional pain or it's very intense emotional pain that you're that subconsciously is wanting to suggest that it has this meaning, what you can do is again take a couple of deep breaths till you feel as though you're aware and then simply observe the energy emotion and sit with it. Sit with it without labeling it problematic, without wanting it to change, without giving the story as to why it's there, without any of the above, just simply observing it. And you'll watch as that energy emotion simply just transmutes into love and peace and bliss, right? You're not trying for it to do that. It simply just happens when you observe it. So those are two different things that you can do. And I trust that you'll have a different experience and you won't say, "Oh, this fear keeps." You're going to say, "I keep having bliss showing up. I keep having happiness showing up," because you gave a different. You related to the energy and emotion differently. Thank you for the response, Joseph. I've been affirming for SP, but still not seeing movement. They wish me a happy birthday, and that was it. Should I continue to affirm my self concept and SP? I would simply just live in the end. Whenever you think of SP, thank you that I have the perfect relationship now. I'm not personally a big fan of continuous affirmations because to me, the way that I view it is that this is implying that I'm not the cause, that it's not that way now, and there's something I need to do because there's absolutely no other reason why I would continue to affirm all day long, unless that was the case. So for me, it's just simple acknowledgement. Like you are the power in your reality. What you deem as how things are is how things are. And so why the need for stress and controlling and forcing and doing it all day long and um just a simple acknowledgement is enough. Like, thank you that I have the perfect relationship. Jamarion, Ty, sounds like you haven't really changed. Tate, I definitely did start to feel friend zone and afraid of third party. At first, we were really into each other, and now she says she never was. I still want her. I've been persisting with my fear symptoms. Yeah, Tate, you see even there where where you were observing or you were imagining that she was into you. She was at that time. You changed your imagining, and then it appears as though it was never any other way. That's the whole thing. That's the funny thing about imagining is that it appears the way that you say it does now, and if you change the way that it appears, it'll seem as though it was always the way that you're changing that it appeared. So, like when I was manifesting my wife back and I talked to her, it seemed as though she didn't want anything to do with me. She was cold. And then the moment we got back in a loving relationship, because I changed my state of consciousness, it was as if she was always so loving to me, because that's how manifestation works. It appears the way that I'm currently assuming that it is now. So you go back to assuming that you're in a loving relationship, and then that's what will appear, and it'll seem as though that's the way it always was. Can we go out with others while manifesting SP? Rebecca, this is a personal choice for me. I decided not to, and the reason why is that although the actions that I take here in the outside of reality fundamentally do not matter, it's my assumptions that matter. I found it personally very contradicting and very confusing when I told myself that I was in a loving relationship with my wife, but then I was hanging out with other girls. So my personal preference was that no, it didn't align with me and it didn't make sense. But if you find that it serves you, then definitely do that. Taking myself the new identity, I keep telling myself that I'm happily married to my SP. As I go to bed, I say thanks for hearing the good news about our union today. Yeah, that's awesome, Fig. That's it. What you say is what it is. To have manifested, I'll keep persisting, not think about the third party. It hurts, but she is the only person I see myself with, despite what she says. Sorry if that sounds crazy, but I believe she wanted me until I got really insecure. Yeah, and that's I'm sure exactly what you're experiencing. Wow, this is really clicking for me. Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that, my friend. You are the only power. I guarantee you. Stop entertaining undesired thoughts, people, period. Yes. As I put it very simply, do not imagine to the contrary of your desire. If your desire is a loving relationship with your person, do not imagine anything that contradicts that. Do not imagine anything that stands in the way of that. Do not imagine that things aren't the way that you want them to be now. Do not imagine that you're not perfect and ideal now. That's really fundamentally what this comes down to. Not so much about imagining that things are the way you want them to, although this is obviously ideal and enjoyable to do so. It's really primarily about not imagining to the contrary. So if I understood what you just said, 3 p.m. I'm drawing conscious to not being married right now by saying I heard the good news about our union that he is finally here. I'm confused. I thought it don't matter. Well, as long as from the end, Fig. All that matters is something from the end. Hey, my man. Yo, what's up, Adro? I did a lot of surrendering lately after reading Eckhart. I think I finally understood and got to the place of being before it was me trying to be immensely. Yep. Welcome to freedom, brother. I'm going to sound like I'm crazy until you experientially understand what I'm saying. And then you're going to be like, holy shit, it is the truth. Being is the way. It's like sculpting, just removing the block to get to the desired state of art. Yeah, that's the funny thing, Tercy, is that like you are always bliss. You're always in 11. Like a thing that I found that was so cool, so fascinating, is that I remember manifesting my wife back, and I go, I can't feel like I'm in a loving relationship, and it's so hard, and I can't imagine ideally, and I can't accept this affirmation. All these things used to happen, and what I would do in those moments is I would just release identification to it, or I would keep affirming until those thoughts went away. And a very interesting thing happened every time. I would then automatically fall into the state where I felt like my wife loved me so much. So it was like that state was always there. It was just underneath the shit. It was underneath the imagining to the contrary. It was underneath the overthinking, the lacking, the I don't have it, the I need to do something, the old story. Once I let go of that, what was left there was the state that I desired to be in. That's the funny thing is like it's what you want to be, who you want to acknowledge yourself as, how you want to feel that you are. It's underneath the I need to do something. I need to affirm I'm not I lack this. I don't have it. Once that's released, you experience that you are it. You are who you desire to be until you become the person you do not desire to be, at which point really reality has no choice but to show you external evidence. Amen, brother. Divine, what's up? How large of a help would you say Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditation were you to help you on your journey? You did tune into new potentials twice a day, right? Love your content. Thank you, Divine. I appreciate that. It's cool to see you in here. I know you've been a member for some time, which thank you for that, by the way. Dr. Dispenza was extremely helpful. I did do I don't believe I did tune into new potentials, although I may have. I haven't done them in a while, and it's not coming to me what meditations I did. But yes, Dr. Dispenza's meditations were very helpful, um, primarily for the reason that they made me more conscious throughout my day. That's the thing I find. That's why I'm a very big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza's or Eckhart Tolle's. Is most of their teachings is in fact just sitting in silence, so then that way you can recognize who you actually are. Because the funny thing is you don't know who you are until your mind stops telling you who you are. Then you recognize experientially who you are. So I'm a really big fan of his meditations because he'll have many minutes of you sitting there in silence. And so while in that silence, you experientially know who you are without thought. It's a very interesting experience. And then it's very easy also to see yourself as who you desire to be. So I find his information extremely helpful. Matter of fact, I still well, I haven't done his meditation in a long time, I'm not gonna lie. But often thinking of doing his meditations happens pretty often, although I don't do them. Hi, Joseph. Loving these live sessions. What up, Perry D? Thank you. I love that you're here and participating. I appreciate you for that. Joseph, so each time the opposite comes to my mind, we give it the meaning we want. Will this push it out to manifest in 3D just by doing this each time we think of it, or must it become neutral? Yeah, mystical. I wouldn't worry about like that's the thing that I noticed too is that I made it so much about control. Let me make sure I do this perfect. Let me make sure I do this perfect. And I created an identity out of it. And I created these concepts out of it. And it was simply just like think of how you did it before you knew about manifestation. You had certain thoughts that you didn't like, and it wasn't about necessarily creating it. You just didn't want to entertain that thought because you were like, I don't want to think that way. It's the exact same way now. It's not let me do this right, let me create this right, let me it's just like this thought doesn't align with who I'm being. This thought doesn't align with what I love. This thought doesn't align with what I'm creating. This thought doesn't align with reality for me. So let me just think the way that I love thinking. Let me be the way that I love being without any control, trying to be a particular way, trying to feel a particular way, trying to do this a particular way. Let me just be as I love to be. Let me think as I love to think. Let me imagine as I love to imagine. And just do it like that. Just be you. You love being the way we're in your loving relationship, so be that way. It doesn't have to be felt a particular way. It doesn't have to, don't worry about the naturalness. Don't worry about any of this. You are a master manifester. You are everything. You're the only power in your reality. It is simply as easy as you acknowledging that truth now. There's nothing more that you can do. You are it. You have it. It's just a surrender to it. It's just an acknowledgement to it. And you'll find that, like, if you need to purify your mind or anything like that, it'll happen for you automatically too. So don't worry about that. It will, just with persevering and persistence and continuing to acknowledge that you are that way now, you automatically flow there. Like, if you need to release anything, you will. If you need to do this, you will. If this needs to happen, it will. Like, that's all part of the bridge of incidences. So yeah, I would just keep every time that it comes up. If it's not a thought that aligns with who you're choosing to be, it's not your thought. It's not the way that you desire to be. Let it go. And then when it's a thought that you love, dwell on it, accept it. Thank you that it is that way. Acknowledge it. Like, should our thoughts become natural without having to identify and give it to the meaning we want it all the time for it to manifest, or isn't it needed? Well, what you'll find, mystical, is that, like, when you do, so if you do something like, there's really a couple ways that this happens. I notice that if my mind or my little eye will suggest something to me based upon appearances, and let's say that I don't identify with it, a lot of the times what I'll find automatically ends up happening is that the way that I desire to be is the way that I start thinking that I am. I start imagining this way automatically. I start thinking this way automatically. I start picturing myself as being that person automatically, and it happens naturally. I'm not forcing myself to think that way. So that's the thing, is when you don't identify with the untrue thoughts that come to you, you're releasing the untrue belief that's causing you to see yourself misconstrued, or with confusion, or with your or saying you're not who you want to be. And then what you're left with is imagining the way that you love to be. So it's not a forced thing. You see there, it's very simply a thought comes up. I don't identify with it. I let it go. And then naturally, the next thought that comes up is a thought that's in harmony with who I desire to be. I didn't choose the thoughts. I didn't affirm the thoughts. I didn't fight with the thoughts. I simply released identification to the untrue. So that's why I'm saying that's the primary thing behind this, is when you release identification to untrue thoughts, what you're left with is your true way of thinking. And your true way of thinking is thoughts from fulfillment, bliss, love. Thank you. Anxiety is intense. I think it's also a time thing. I don't know how to pay my bills next month. It feels weird not doing anything about it. But whatever I do doesn't seem to work out anyway. Yeah. So Carolina, what I would keep imagining, or keep accepting, is that it is the way that you desire to be now. Right. So I understand that your senses continue to suggest things based upon what it's seeing. It's suggesting things based upon the amount of time that you have, and it's creating this urgency. My suggestion would be the same as Neville's: remove your attention from your senses and feel as though you already have enough money to pay your bills. Feel as though everything is already ideal, and continue to stay there as often as you can. And then you'll find, maybe you take action, maybe you don't take action. Maybe you go and apply for a job, maybe you don't go and apply for a job. But the funny thing is you'll find that you feel like doing things. Like, that's the thing, is that in order for me to do lives or me to do coaching, I had to force myself. Well, why did I have to force myself? Because I had untrue beliefs in mind. So I had to force myself to push through that. Now, when I do lives, I flow. It's very easy for me. I love them. So I don't force myself to come on here and have conversations anymore. Another thing that used to happen for me that stopped me from doing coaching for some time is that I noticed when I was talking with people, they would talk about third parties, or they talk about this, or they talk about that. And what would happen is I would start fearing that this would happen to me. I would start fearing that I was going to create this in my reality. Again, untrue thoughts, untrue thinking, which caused convolution, complexity, which caused overthinking, which caused fear, which caused making it about the little I. the little I that doesn't exist. So it's a beautiful opportunity for me to release identification to these untrue thoughts. Now someone can suggest that they're going through this or going through that. I don't make it about me because in this instance, I don't make it about the little I. I'm just in flow. I observe. I observe the individual tell me about their experience. And then something flows to me and I suggest something that I trust will be helpful to them. And oftentimes it is. But that's just what happens in flow. You know the right things to say, you know the things that the individual needs. Um, I've observed it many times while I'm flowing and this individual has a breakthrough while I'm in a coaching session. It just happens. I don't plan it. I don't manipulate and think, oh, how am I going to say this right thing to I observe the individual, something flows out of me, and then I share it, and then the person goes, holy shit, that was so helpful. Like that's just who you are. You're infinite intelligent, you know what to do. You go by how you feel. And if you feel like doing something, you do something. If you don't feel like doing something, you don't do something. No shame, no condemnation, no I have to, no I should do. Do what you feel like doing because what you feel like doing is in alignment with what you want to create. What kind of meditations do you do these days now you're aware that you're a consciousness? I don't really do too many to be honest. I live life most of the time in a meditation. Like I stay in I stay in flow a lot of my day. Um but I do love meditation, so I love being conscious all day long. But if I were to listen to meditations, it would be Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations. I really, really enjoy them. Love his work. I think his voice is very funny. I know a lot of people don't share that opinion, but I think it's very funny. It's passionate. Wake up! Fucking hilarious. Just curious if you have any regimen that you follow on bad days. I don't, Victory. No, nope. The only my only goal of the day is uh being in flow. First thing I do when I wake up is not have a thought of how my day should go or imagining things and all this stuff. It's simply just let me sit there in the silence until I am aware that I'm the silence and the thoughts of the little I dissolve. And I'll sit there in a very deep meditation until I feel very alert and present with no thoughts from the little I. And then I go on with my day. And then if throughout my day I'm overthrown with complexity or confusion or problems, I know that the little I activated again, which means that I've become unconscious on some level. And I realize that the remedy, the only remedy, is for me to again rise in consciousness. It's to become the awareness, the stillness, that which observes. And then my thoughts will change automatically. My emotions will change automatically. Everything changes automatically. I'll start imagining an ideal, things work in harmony for me, business opportunities flow to me, everything's ideal. Kind of like this guy. This guy flows. I love it. It'll just be random places. We could be in a library and he's just like doing what he wants to do. I love it. It's funny because my wife gets nervous when we're in stores or in private places. She is not a big fan of attention. And yeah. And then when him and I go places, we just kind of well, let's just say that I observe myself being different than how she prefers to be. And so she's not a big fan of that. But him and I love it. I'm noticing watching certain shows just throw me off and bring back old story. Why is that the case? Even though they're enjoyable and entertaining at the moment. Yeah. That's so cool that you said that because I was watching The Good Doctor. If you guys haven't watched it, phenomenal TV series. And this guy is has autism, but also at the same time is like a fucking genius, right? Like he's brilliant and autistic at the same time. And they were talking about this condition one of the people had. They talked about like piss or like bubbles in their piss or something. At one point, I had that when I was like, I don't know, probably 10, 15 years ago or so. It started bringing up all these. This is what I'm currently having now. The funny thing is, I even observed as my body was starting to react in a very similar way to where that it was then. That like I had that thing now. Such an interesting thing. And so this is another reason why I suggest that when you're manifesting your SP or anything really in general, It's so important to watch what you're watching. It's because you see there how when you're watching this show or you're watching this, it'll bring up all those past memories, everything similar to it. And in some cases, can start suggesting that you're currently experiencing this thing now. I used to happen with my SP all the time. I'd watch a show about someone breaking up or something or third party. Oh no, that must be happening to me now. That's why I stayed away from that shit is because that show activated some thought that the personality had and started putting these images and making me imagine that way. That's why I suggested people stay off social media. That's why people stay off of different platforms like that is because that's what happens. Even though they're enjoyable, entertaining, that's a good show. Oh, you like a fig? Yeah, it's fire. Good Doctor is fire. Yeah, this happens with music with me. If it's a sad song or love song, activate. Yep. Yeah, mystical. It's the same way for everybody. It really is the same way for everybody. Not everybody is aware that that's happening for them because we become the more that we practice consciousness, the more we start becoming aware of things like this. But it is true for everybody. Yeah, it's just part of the way that it is. Everybody's phone today. I love it. All right, guys. I'm going to answer this last question, and then we shall end this bad boy. Oh, we got two more questions. All right, we'll answer these two, and then we'll call it the end of the day. So I guess being aware all day makes it tougher for a bit. Well, what ends up happening at first when you become conscious, like if you do a 7-day mental diet or something like that, is you start becoming aware of how often what you're suggesting doesn't serve you or you don't love it. I didn't realize this until I did my first 70 mental diet. I used to always say, I'm the most positive person I've ever met in my whole entire life. Everyone else is negative. Well, here's the funny thing. I was about an hour or two into the mental diet. I'm like, holy shit, I am the most negative motherfucker ever. So I went from the most spiritual to the most negative in about 2 hours. Um, the truth is neither one is true, right? You're not your thoughts, you're the awareness of them. But it was really, really nice to be aware of what I was imagining all day long. And I had no idea. See, this is what I'm saying is like until I take a look, I don't know what I'm doing. So many people go, "Why? I didn't imagine that. I didn't create that." Well, the thing is that if you're asleep when you're imagining it, you don't know when you did it, even though you did do it. That's and how can I change something that I'm unconscious to? So that's why fundamentally being conscious is the solution to everything and is a stepping point. It has to happen. So when you first start doing mental diets, yes, it is going to appear as more stuff coming up. But that's not truly what it is. What it is things that have been there a really long time, you had no idea were there. You start becoming aware that they're there. So you get to start purging, you get to start releasing, you get to start letting go of this stuff, which is important because if I'm not releasing it, if I don't know that it's there and I'm not releasing it, then that means that I'm imagining unconsciously the same way that I did before. So I need to change that. So it does get easier. Like the more you purify your mind, the more and more you do this, like now it's very easy for me to go when an untrue thought comes up. I know immediately because it doesn't feel good. It's not a loving thought. It's not a fulfillment based thought. It's not a powerful thought. It's not a harmonious thought. It's not a bliss based thought. It can't be an I thought, an actual who I am thought. It must be a little I thought. It must be an untrue thought. I guess a more appropriate question would be could you arrive to this point of flow without the meditations? Yes, you absolutely can, Nicholas. Yeah. I observed myself for years that I would be in flow during meditations and then I would not be in flow once I got into meditations. It didn't translate over to after meditations. It was only during the meditations would I be in flow. So, in fact, the most helpful time to do it is throughout your day when you're interacting. For instance, when you're sitting here observing me talking on the computer, can you observe what I'm doing, what I'm saying without labeling, without suggesting something to yourself, without saying whether or not you agree or that I'm dumb or whatever it is that's being suggested to you. Can you observe what it is I'm doing without labeling it in your mind? Can you simply just observe? When you're walking down the stairs, can you just observe what the sensations are without saying this is what it is to you, without uh imagining something or going unconscious about something you need to do in 3 hours or something you did 5 hours ago? Can you observe that and pay attention to your senses without labeling what's happening to you? This is what being more conscious means, is that you're in the moment without analytical thoughts about what this means, what this looks like, what this object is, etc. And the more that you can do that, the more conscious you'll be. So in that way, when you start having circumstances like I did today with my grandma, where there's an emotional charge that's being activated, I can become conscious during that high energy situation and not react, not imagine, not behave the same way I did. I can become conscious and release it. So that's how we quote unquote change, is that, as Neville says, your reactions to life determine your state of consciousness. If you're reacting the exact same way that you always have, your state of consciousness will remain the same. But the more conscious you are, the more that when you go through high stress situations, like you're talking with your SP, you see your SP sends you a message, someone says something that's triggering, you can become conscious and disidentify from it. So that's the point behind coming conscious. You become free. You become a creator. You get to choose how you imagine, how you behave, how you look at life, how you relate to others, how you relate to circumstances. Hi, Joseph. What up, LEG? Imagination Gym for your mind. What up, Joseph? What's up, brother? Good to see you. Dude, your name's fire, bro. I got to be honest. Okay, finally caught up after listening to 1.5 speed. Nick is a funny guy. What up, Nick? Sorry, I didn't say that either. I tried it 3 times, but I couldn't understand crap. No worries, brother. Actually, I was going to be ending my live right now. I wanted to answer a couple of people's questions that they had in here. I am going to jump off and I'm going to vibe for a little bit, but I love you guys. Thank you guys as always for checking in, staying in here, conversating with me. Do love this video too, by the way. The more likes and loves this gets, the more that the algorithm will push this to other people and et cetera, et cetera. I will catch you guys all later. You too, Nick. Much love, brother. Later, Mystical. Bye, G.